In the golden heart of Lagos, where the skyline shimmered with wealth and ambition, lived a young billionaire named Darius Edom. At just 28, he had everything the world chased. A tech empire that dominated West Africa, fleets of exotic cars, a mansion in Banana Island, and a face that made magazine covers without effort. Yet, beneath the charm, money, and confidence was a heart that had been bruised too many times by love. Women came and went. Some were gold diggers, others were caught up in the fantasy of dating a billionaire. A few tried to love him, but Darius had grown cold. He didn't know how to trust anymore. The flash of cameras, the whispering of false intentions, and the feeling of being desired only for his money had left him hollow. He'd stopped believing in love. Until one rainy Tuesday afternoon. That day, Darius had left a high-level board meeting in a rare foul mood. The stress of managing mergers, lawsuits, and fake friends had worn him down. Against his driver's protest, he ordered the tinted G-Wagon to stop along the Marina Bridge. He needed air, space, something real. As he stood by the roadside under the faint drizzle, he saw her. A young lady, no older than 23, weaving through traffic with a wooden tray balanced on her head, selling gala and cold bottled water. Her brown skin glistened with rain and sweat. Her clothes were clean but faded, and her eyes, God, her eyes, held a strength that Darius hadn't seen in anyone in years. She noticed him watching. Her steps hesitated. Then she walked up to him with boldness that took him by surprise. "Are you buying gala and you're just watching me pass by?" she asked, her voice direct, unshaken. Darius smiled, an authentic smile he hadn't felt in months. "How much for one?" "Gala is 10 cents, water 5 cents. But you will pay 50 cents. He laughed. "Why?" "Because you're putting on shoes more expensive than my father's life savings. You stood under the rain like the weather is your friend." He liked her. He gave her $5 and told her to keep the change. But she refused. "Sir, I am working. I'm not a beggar. Please take your change." Darius blinked. No one had said that to him in years. He took the change, and before she could disappear into the traffic again, he asked, "What's your name?" She looked at him, eyes squinting. "Zena." And that was the beginning. Darius went home that night thinking about her. The next day he returned to the same spot and she was there. For a week straight he came back, pretending to want gala and water, but he only came for her. It took weeks before she agreed to sit and talk with him properly. They sat on a bench by the lagoon. She told him her mother was dead, her father was a drunk, and she had 3 younger siblings at home. She hawked to feed them and pay her brother's school fees. Darius never told her who he truly was. Not at first. He wore jeans, a simple polo, and left his cars behind. With her, he felt like a normal man, and he didn't want to ruin that. She made him laugh. She challenged him. She listened, not for his money, not for the fame, but for him. Eventually, the truth came out. A journalist spotted them, and within hours, social media went wild. Billionaire Darius Edom dating street hawker? Zena was overwhelmed. She went into hiding for days. Her street customers mocked her. People accused her of pretending. And suddenly, the world that once ignored her now followed her every step. Darius begged her to talk to him again. He showed up at her house in Ajigunal, no guards, no drivers, just him. Her father insulted him, called him a liar. Zena stood at the doorway, arms folded, unsure. "I didn't lie to you," Darius said. "I just wanted to be seen as a man, not a wallet." To her, he was just another fine man. Tall, clean, well-spoken, with a soft smile and kind eyes. She liked his attention, but she didn't take him seriously. Not at first. Not while her heart already belonged to someone else. His name was Deo. Deo was her longtime boyfriend, the boy she met when she was 15 and he was 17. Poor like her, broken like her, full of anger at the world like her. He was the kind of man who called poverty temporary and dreams plans. But after 5 years of being together, they were still stuck in the same circle, hustling, surviving, scraping by. Zena loved him, or at least she thought she did. So when Darius entered her life, and she later discovered he wasn't a regular man but Darius Edom, one of Nigeria's youngest and richest billionaires, she didn't react with confusion. She saw opportunity. She went straight to Deo the day she confirmed it. They sat in his dim one-room apartment. He was ironing his only shirt for an interview when she said, "The guy I told you about, the one that buys gala from me every day, he's a billionaire." Deo dropped the iron with a clank. "Wait, what?" "He's Darius Edom. I saw him on the internet. That's why he always looked familiar. He just hides it when he's with me." Deo stared at her. "Are you sure about this?" Zena nodded. Silence fell. Then Deo laughed. A short, sharp laugh. "Baby, God has done it." Zena was confused. "What do you mean?" He pulled her close and whispered, "Use him." Her heart stopped. "What?" Deo's voice hardened. "You think all these rich men love like every other guys? You want to be waiting for love? Use him. Let him fall for you. Collect as much as you can. This is an opportunity." Zena blinked. "So you're saying I should pretend? Act like I love him?" "Yes. Or is it not what you've been doing?" Deo said. "Continue. Carry more. Bring it to me." She sat still for a long time. That night Darius called. She ignored it. She sat in Deo's arms, confused and torn. But Deo rubbed her back and whispered sweetly, "Do it for us, baby, for our future. You're not the only one that need the money." From that day forward, Zena became someone else. She became the perfect girlfriend for Darius. Humble, playful, understanding, yet always needing something. "Babe, my sister's medical bill just increased." "Darius, I need a better phone for my business. My brother did looking for a job. Maybe you can connect him." Darius never blinked. He did everything. He loved how simple she seemed, how she still wore slippers when they walked the streets, how she would sit with his staff and talk like she was one of them. He thought he had finally found a woman who didn't care for his wealth. Then Zena told him, "Most men are after my body, so if you really want to be with me, no sex till wedding night. Is that a deal?" Darius paused and said, "Yes, it's a deal." But behind closed doors, Zena would call Deo, send him money, even cook and deliver food to him in secret. She made sure Darius never suspected anything. Sometimes she'd lie she was going to the market, but end up at Deo's place. They'd laugh together, make love, and mock Darius like he was a clueless fool. "Babe," Deo would say, "this your rich boyfriend is a fool. How much have you collected this month already?" Zena would laugh, embarrassed but proud. "Almost $9,000. And he is still asking as I need any other thing." Their relationship grew like wildfire. Slow at first, uncertain, but then suddenly consuming every space in Darius's heart. Zena was perfect in his eyes. She didn't ask questions about his wealth, never posted about him online, and didn't try to impress his friends or force herself into his world. She was simple, humble, real, or so he believed. To Darius, who had spent most of his life guarded and surrounded by women who saw him as a transaction, Zena was like a miracle wrapped in plain clothes. He took her to quiet beaches, drove her to small towns for food tours, introduced her to his mother's favorite places, but he never told her everything. Not until one rainy evening, sitting under a small gazebo in his private garden. Zena sat across from him in a flowing dress he had bought for her weeks ago. Her natural hair was in a bun, her eyes soft and curious. Darius looked at her for a long time, then took a deep breath.
"Zena,
I want to tell you something. My story. Who I really am, beyond the money and headlines." She smiled lightly, pretending to be flattered. He leaned back, eyes distant. "I grew up in pain," he began. "My dad was a rich man, yes, but he was never around. It has been just me and my mum. Everything after that was business. I built my first company at 17, but I lost myself on the way." Zena nodded gently, urging him on. She looked like the perfect listener, but her heart was cold. Her mind was elsewhere, counting numbers, already thinking of what new business pitch she could request next week. "I've dated women, Zena," he continued, his voice more fragile now. "Some loved my cars, others loved my money. They all smiled, acted like angels, but once I opened my heart, they stripped it bare and left. Zena's lips parted slightly. The guilt poked again, but Deo's voice rang in her head. I stopped believing love was real. Until you, Darius whispered. Zena blinked. Me? You reminded me of who I was before the fame. You don't ask for much. You smile without pretending. You touch me without needing to take. You made me believe again. Her throat tightened. This wasn't what she had expected. She thought he'd talk about business. She didn't expect him to be this raw. Then he looked straight into her eyes. I want to marry you, Zena. Her breath caught in her chest. I know we haven't even kissed. You asked for no sex till marriage, and I respect that. I've waited all my life to find a woman who would value herself so much. She'd put boundaries. And now that I've found you, I'm not letting go. Zena stared at him, speechless. The weight of his sincerity was suffocating. It wasn't a joke anymore. This wasn't just free money from a naive man. This was a man offering her his whole world, his soul. But she couldn't speak, because just 3 nights ago, she had lain in bed with Deo, laughing about Darius. Deo had chuckled, pulling her close. Use him till he become broke. And now, here Darius was, telling her he'd found his peace in her. She forced a smile. Darius, I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just want you to know I trust you. More than anyone. That night, he held her hand until the rain stopped. He didn't try to kiss her. He just sat beside her in silence, staring at the wet trees and whispering once again, Thank you for being different. Zena's heart was in chaos. He had no idea. No idea that the girl he believed was pure and honest was sneaking $500 to her real boyfriend last week. No idea that every time she said, My cousin needs help, she was topping up Deo's new boutique business. No idea that the ring of love he thought he had found was forged in lies and coated in betrayal. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when Deo had started calling her our only hope. Not when her siblings were eating well. Not when she had become the provider her family never thought she'd be. So, she continued the act. Even better now. She hugged tighter, smiled wider, played the role of a woman in love so well. Even Darius's mother had called her wife material. But inside, the weight of her lie grew heavier every day. Because now, it wasn't just his money she was stealing. It was his hope. The tension had been building in Darius for months. He had given Zena everything she asked for. Money, time, presence, silence, patience. He held back his needs, his desires, his instincts, all in the name of love and respect. Not once did he push beyond her boundaries. Not once did he touch her beyond a simple hug or a light peck on the forehead. And he respected it. At least he tried to. But he was a man, a human being. One who burned with passion every time she walked into a room in her long skirts and subtle perfume. One who ached every time she smiled and said, Good night, shutting the door in his face. It was eating at him. So one evening, after they had dinner in his penthouse and she was getting ready to leave, he stopped her at the door. Zena, wait. She turned, slinging her small handbag across her shoulder. Yes, baby? Darius didn't smile. His jaw was tight, his eyes heavy with unsaid words. Can we talk? Properly. Like talk. She looked at him, concerned. What's wrong? He motioned to the living room. She followed. They sat. The night outside the glass windows was still. Only the hum of the city far below filled the silence. Then he spoke, his voice low and controlled. Zena, I have done everything you've asked of me, and I'm not even complaining. I've given you money when you needed it. I've shown up every single time you called. I've been patient. I've kept your secrets. I've respected your choice to stay a virgin until marriage. And I swear to God, I admire that more than you know. She looked away. Something about the way he was speaking made her nervous. But I'm burning inside, Zena. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'm not a child. I'm a grown man in love. I can't keep pretending like I don't feel anything. You won't let me touch you. Not even to kiss you properly. I hug you and I feel like I'm stealing. I hold your hand and it's like you're tolerating it. Zena's face tensed. She was already preparing her defense, but he kept going. I've never cheated on you, even though women throw themselves at me every single day. I'm not boasting, just telling you the reality. You asked for no sex before marriage, and I agreed. You said you're a virgin, and I respected that. He sighed deeply. His voice cracked. But Zina, I'm struggling. Badly. I need you. I need to feel like I'm with someone who sees me too. Not just someone who's holding me at a distance. I don't want to cheat on you, but I swear, I'm close to falling. Silence. Zina swallowed hard. Her mind was racing, not because she was afraid of losing him, but because this was the kind of moment where lies started cracking. She had to stay firm, composed. Darius, she said gently, I told you from the beginning. I'm a virgin. I've never been with a man before. Not even Deo. She caught herself. Not even anyone. He didn't catch the slip. Or maybe he was too heartbroken to notice. She continued. I want to give myself to you on our wedding night, not before. I don't want guilt. I don't want regret. But I'm not asking to defile you, he said desperately. I want to make love to the woman I plan to marry. Isn't that sacred too? Zina stood slowly.
I'm sorry.
But if you're going to love me, it has to be completely. I'm giving you all of me. Just not yet. He nodded, though his heart screamed. Okay, he said softly, eyes downcast. I understand. But inside, he didn't understand. He went to the gym that night and worked out until sweat soaked his shirt. Then he sat alone in the dark, asking himself, why does loving her feel like punishment? Zina left his house that night and went straight to Deo's place. He was waiting, shirtless, scrolling through her WhatsApp messages with Darius on her second phone. You try, Deo smirked. You haven't even touched the guy, and he is begging you. This isn't normal. He laughed. Zina didn't smile. She sat quietly. Her heart wasn't at peace anymore, because for the first time, she had seen Darius. Not the billionaire, not the giver, but a man pleading for warmth. And she had denied him not because she was a virgin, but because she was loyal to a lie. And somewhere inside, that lie was beginning to poison her. It was a warm Sunday evening. Darius had flown Zina out to Abuja for a quiet weekend away from the chaos of Lagos. They were staying in a serene private villa tucked away in the outskirts, surrounded by tall palms, birdsong, and still water. It was perfect. Dinner was soft jazz, candlelight, and a quiet breeze on the terrace. Zina wore a simple silk gown he'd bought her, olive green, hugging her body gently, the kind of outfit Darius found himself stealing glances at all night. She smelled like vanilla and something deeper, something womanly. He was losing control, and he knew it. They walked back into the villa, barefoot, laughing at something silly she'd said about Abuja being too quiet to be trusted. He poured her a glass of wine and took one himself. They settled on the couch. She laid her head on his chest, and he wrapped his arm around her. He held her like that for minutes, peaceful, content. But then his hand shifted, just a little, from her shoulder to her waist, from her waist to her hip. She didn't move. Emboldened, Darius pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, then another on her cheek. He whispered her name, Zina, and she turned her face slightly. Their lips met, softly at first, then a little deeper. Her breath caught, and his heartbeat thundered. He had waited for this moment for months, holding himself back in the name of respect. But tonight the restraint slipped. His fingers moved, exploring the fabric of her gown, brushing the curve of her side. Then his hand began to wander lower. Darius, stop. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp, firm. He froze. His body tensed with frustration, but he pulled back immediately, running a hand down his face. I'm sorry, he said breathlessly. She sat up, fixing her gown. I already told you no sex until after marriage. I wasn't playing games. I know, he said quickly. I know. I slipped. And he meant it. His desire was real, but so was his respect. He reached for her hand and kissed it softly. I'll wait, no matter how hard it gets. Zina smiled faintly, but her heart was elsewhere. Because later that night, when she was back in her room, her second phone buzzed. Deo, how are you? How did it go? He tried to touch me. Did you allow him? No, I stopped him. Good. Keep making him mad. He will lose focus. Now, tell him that your mum need to flown to India for surgery. Zena stared at the message. No, how are you? No, I miss you. Just instructions. Pressure. She sighed and typed back. Deo, we already collected a lot from him this month. And so, do you want to stop now when the money is still flowing in? Do you think you would have another man like him again? Don't be dull, wise up, Zena. Zena stared at the screen for a long time, her chest tightening. She had once believed Deo was her future, that they were hustling together, dreaming together, winning together. But now, he was changing. Greedy, cold, always calculating, always pushing her to cross lines that made her stomach twist. Every time she looked into Darius's eyes lately, it got harder to lie, harder to pretend. The man she was supposed to be using was the only one showing her real love, real care, real patience. Deo, meanwhile, was beginning to sound like a parasite. She didn't respond to his last message that night. She simply curled up in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering for the first time, what if I chose the wrong man? The next day, Darius drove her to a quiet garden restaurant in Abuja. She barely spoke during the ride. He noticed. You're quiet, he said, glancing at her. You okay? She smiled weakly. Yeah, just thinking. About what? She wanted to say, about how I've been lying to you, about how Deo is using me to drain you, about how I don't even know who I am anymore. But she just said, about us. Darius took her hand gently. Zena, I know I messed up last night, but I promise, I'm not going to let my feelings for you ruin this. I'll wait. You're worth it. Zena looked away quickly. The guilt was now a mountain on her chest. Because no matter how she tried to justify it, one truth was becoming clear. Deo wanted her to milk Darius. But Darius just wanted to love her. And soon something had to break. The change started slow, like a quiet wind brushing through the curtains of Zena's life. At first, she simply stopped replying to Deo's messages on time. She used to respond within seconds, her fingers flying over the keyboard with "Yes, baby." But now his messages sat unread for hours, sometimes a whole day. Then came the missed calls. 1 call, 2, 5. She would glance at her screen, see his name glowing angrily, and drop the phone face down without touching it, because her heart wasn't in it anymore. Not after the way Darius looked at her every time she spoke. Not after the way he called her my peace when she least expected it. Not after the way he said thank you for the smallest things, like she was the best gift life had ever given him. She wasn't used to that. She was used to pretending, to planning, to being a vessel for someone else's hustle. But now she was being loved. Darius noticed the shift too, but he didn't question it. All he knew was that Zena started staying longer after dinner. She stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes. She began laughing from her belly, not from the surface of her throat. They watched more movies together. She laid her head on his lap while he played with her hair. She asked him questions about his childhood, listened like she genuinely cared. And for the first time, she kissed him first. It happened on a slow Wednesday evening in Lagos. They were in his penthouse again, seated on the balcony, watching the golden city lights. The air was quiet. The sky was clear. She looked at him and said, "Can I ask you something? Anything. Why didn't you ever give up on me?" He smiled. "Because I saw your heart, even when you tried to hide it." Zena blinked fast. Something inside her broke open. She reached out slowly, touched his cheek with trembling fingers, and leaned in. Their lips met, soft at first, unsure, then deeper, real. Her hands on his neck, his arms pulling her closer, the world outside disappearing. The kiss was long, full of heat and silence and unspoken truths. He didn't try to go further. He didn't push for more. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "Thank you for waiting," she whispered. Darius smiled, a gentle kind of joy spreading through him. You're worth the wait. But Xena wasn't smiling. Not fully. Not yet. Because inside, the war was raging. She had kissed him with real feelings this time. And when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see opportunity anymore. She saw a man who had given her everything, including himself. And yet she had lied. Lied about being single. Lied about her background. Lied about her intentions. Later that night, in her apartment, her second phone rang again. Deo. She let it ring. He called again. This time she picked, her voice flat. Hello. Xena, what is happening? You no longer want to pick my calls. You haven't even asked if I have eaten. Who are you with now? His voice was sharp, demanding. Xena closed her eyes. I've been busy. Busy with your new husband, right? Have you forgotten our plan already? I need money, Xena. You haven't sent anything this week. Her silence was loud. Then she said, Deo, don't call me again tonight. She hung up before he could respond. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook. But somehow she felt lighter. Because slowly, Xena was starting to realize Deo only saw her as a tool. Darius saw her as a treasure. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop being a hustler and start being a woman worthy of love. By now, Xena had stopped pretending. She didn't know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was the night he fell asleep on the couch with her head on his chest. Or the afternoon he surprised her with food from her favorite roadside mama put. But one thing was clear. She had fallen, deeply, helplessly, for Darius. Not for his money, not for his penthouse or vacations or gifts, but for the way he saw her, the way he listened to her like her voice mattered, the way he looked at her like she was his whole world, not just another girl in Lagos. She used to calculate everything, what she would ask for next, what Deo needed, how to twist Darius's emotions just enough to keep the money flowing. But now she found herself saying no to the same man she used to manipulate. Xena, Darius said one quiet evening as they walked hand in hand through a luxury store in Victoria Island. You haven't asked me for anything in weeks. Are you sure you don't need anything? She looked up at him with a soft, unreadable smile. I'm okay. I have enough. You sure? He asked, squeezing her hand. I want to spoil you. I love doing things for you. I know, she said. But I don't want you to do things because you feel like you have to. I just want you. Those words stunned even her. Because they were real. Gone was the fake gratitude. Gone was the hidden calculation behind every compliment. For the first time in her life, she was just a woman in love, and it terrified her. But with that love came guilt. Heavy, suffocating guilt. She remembered the day she told him she was a virgin. How he held her hand so gently and promised he would never pressure her. But the truth was, she wasn't. Not only was she not a virgin, she had lied about it while still sleeping with Deo at the beginning of her relationship with Darius. She had stopped now, yes, completely, but the damage had been done. Now, each time Darius touched her waist, each time he kissed her neck and whispered, I want you so badly, each time she wanted him too, she froze. Because how could she give herself to him now, when her entire purity had been a lie? How could she say, I'm ready, and face the shame of his reaction when he found out the truth? How could she admit that her body had already belonged to another man, the same man who once encouraged her to use Darius? She was trapped. She wanted him to touch her. Her body burned for it now, not out of lust, but from love. But every time his hands moved lower, her voice would break with a quiet, guilty, Darius, stop. And he always did. Immediately, lovingly. He would look into her eyes, nod, and say, It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. That only made it worse. Because he loved her in ways she didn't think she deserved. One night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at herself in silence. Her reflection looked different now. Softer, sadder, realer. I've changed, she thought. But does it matter? If he finds out who I used to be? She picked up her phone and typed a message to Deo. Please don't call me again. Don't text me. I'm done. She hit send with shaking hands. And then, She turned to her diary, a small, leather-bound notebook she kept hidden in her dresser. She opened to a blank page and wrote, "I'm in love with Darius. I've lied to him about who I am. I told him I'm a virgin, but I'm not. I told him I've never been with anyone, but I have. I didn't expect to love him, but now I do. I want to be honest, but I don't know how. I want him to touch me, but I'm scared he'll see the lie in my body. I want to be his wife, but maybe I've already lost that right." That same night, Darius called. She answered on the first ring. "I miss you," he said. "Can I see you tomorrow?" "Yes," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Come pick me." Her voice was trembling, because deep down, she knew what she had to do. Tell him the truth, before it was too late. Zena took a deep breath before stepping out of the car in front of Darius's home. Her heart was pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. She had practiced her words all night, standing in front of the mirror, whispering her confession like a prayer. "Darius, I haven't been honest with you. I wasn't who I said I was. I told you I was a virgin, but I'm not." It was time. She wasn't going to carry the guilt anymore. She loved him too much now to keep lying. Darius welcomed her at the door with that same boyish smile that always made her knees weak. He was in a plain white shirt and black trousers, no chains, no flashy logos. Just him. The man who made her feel like she was more than her past. "You look nervous," he said, pulling her in for a hug. "I need to talk to you," she said quickly. "Seriously?" He nodded, but he was fidgeting with something in his pocket. "Okay, but wait, just give me a minute. Darius, please." But before she could finish, he gently pulled her hand and led her into the living room. There were rose petals on the floor, candles, soft music. She blinked, confused. "What's going on?" He turned to her, eyes burning with emotion, and suddenly, he dropped to one knee. Her mouth opened in shock. Her breath caught. "Zena," he began, holding up a velvet box with a stunning diamond ring. "I've loved you from the day I met you. I know you wanted to take things slow. I know we've had moments that tested my patience. But I'd do it all over again, just to be near you." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't care about what your past is. I only care about who you are now. And who I see is a woman with a beautiful heart. A woman I want to build my life with. So," he smiled nervously, "will you marry me?" Zena was stunned. The words she had prepared evaporated. The guilt, the confession, the pain, gone, like smoke under the weight of the moment. She dropped to her knees in front of him and hugged him tight, tears pouring down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Darius. I'll marry you." Later that night, they went out for dinner at a quiet rooftop restaurant overlooking the ocean. Zena's fingers kept playing with the ring, still not believing what had just happened. Darius poured them each a glass of wine, his face glowing with joy. But Zena, still stunned and overwhelmed, looked at him with searching eyes. "Darius," she said gently, "can I ask you something?" "Anything," he said. "What exactly do you do for a living?" Darius chuckled. "You're just asking me that now?" She smiled shyly. "I never really asked, but I want to know." He leaned back in his seat and nodded thoughtfully. "Well," he said, "you know my father passed when I was in secondary school. Left behind a company in oil and gas. I inherited it, expanded it, but I also started investing in fintech, crypto, and real estate on the side. Got lucky a few times. Very lucky. Now I own a group of companies here and abroad. I have a few people running the day-to-day. I just oversee things now." She blinked slowly. "You mean you're not just a billionaire? You're the billionaire?" He smiled. "I guess so." Zena couldn't help it. She laughed. Not the laugh of someone after wealth, but of someone who had just seen the full picture of the man she was falling in love with. He took her hand again. "Does that scare you?" "No," she whispered. "But it makes me want to be better, to be worthy of you." He touched her cheek gently. "You already are." And just like that, her heart cracked even deeper, because she knew the lie still sat like poison between them, even though he had just given her the world. Xena should have been the happiest woman in the world. The engagement had gone viral. Blogs, Instagram pages, even radio shows were talking about the mysterious billionaire who proposed to a woman with no known background. But Darius didn't care about the noise. He shielded her from the press, gave her freedom to say no to any interview, and told her again and again, "This is our story, not theirs." They dove into wedding preparations like two people madly in love, because they were. The wedding was set for 2 months away. Xena chose a soft rose gold and ivory theme, while Darius smiled and nodded at everything she picked because he just wanted her happy. The best planners, stylists, and designers were at her beck and call. Her bridal dress was being sewn in Paris. Everything was perfect, on the outside, but inside Xena, a war. Every morning she woke up in his arms. Guilt screamed at her. Every time he kissed her forehead and said, "I can't wait to make you mine completely," she flinched inwardly. And every night when she lay beside him untouched, just as she requested, her mind drowned in shame, because she wasn't a virgin, and she had told him she was, and he believed her completely. Worse still, she had promised him no sex until their wedding night. That was the lie she had hidden behind to keep the truth from being exposed. But that night was coming. And the fear, it wasn't just about being caught. It was about her body. She knew herself. She got too wet during intimacy, too quickly. She had been with men before her body remembered how to respond. She was far from stiff, or awkward, or hesitant like a first-timer. There was no way Darius wouldn't notice the difference. She would be slippery, experienced, too open, too ready, and that would betray her. What excuse would she give? That she was just nervous? That she was naturally wet? That she read books on how to please a man? The weight of the lie was killing her. One night, 2 weeks to the wedding, she sat in bed beside Darius while he went through a guest list. He was smiling, relaxed. Xena, however, was quiet, her palms sweaty, her throat tight. "Babe," he said, looking up. "You okay?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Darius, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. If a woman says she's a virgin, and on the wedding night, you find out she isn't, would you be angry?" Darius paused, put the tablet down. He looked at her carefully, sensing the seriousness in her voice. "I'd be hurt," he said softly. "Not because she isn't a virgin, but because she lied." Xena's heart skipped. "What if she was scared?" she asked, voice cracking. "What if she didn't think you'd love her if she told the truth?" "I'd rather know the truth and choose to love her than be loved through lies," he said. "Xena, I don't care about virginity. I care about honesty. And I care about you." Tears filled her eyes, but the words still didn't come, because she was afraid he'd leave. Afraid the wedding would be canceled. Afraid he would look at her differently. She just nodded and forced a smile. "I was just asking. For a friend." But as Darius kissed her forehead and laid back down, Xena turned her back to him and wept silently into her pillow. The wedding was getting closer. The dress was ready. The venue was set. Her future was waiting. But the lie stood in the middle of it all, threatening to destroy everything she'd come to love. Deo was in his one-room apartment in Ajigunal when he saw it. Someone had sent him a blog link on WhatsApp. He clicked, thinking it was another gossip headline. But what he saw next made his blood boil. Exclusive. Billionaire Darius Nwachukwu to wed mystery lady Xena Uma this weekend. He blinked, zoomed in, looked again.
Xena.
His Xena, the girl he had coached to play the rich man. The same girl who once cried in his arms, saying, "We're doing this for us." The girl he slept with and shared dreams with while she collected millions from Darius. Now she was marrying him, without a word, without even a warning. Deo snapped. He grabbed his phone, his jacket, and stormed out of the house. When he arrived at Darius's mansion in Banana Island, the guards didn't even let him near the gate. "I need to see Xena," he shouted. "Tell her Deo is here. I'm her man." The guards exchanged looks, unimpressed. "Bro, calm down. My boss does not have time for drama. I said I need to see her. She's marrying me. Are you crazy? One of the guards barked. She is getting married to a billionaire. You're her shouting like a tout. They shoved him back as he tried to force his way in. He fell to the ground, dusty and humiliated. The gate shut in his face. And with nothing left to do, Deo screamed in frustration and disappeared into the street, with no answers to what he seek. The wedding day came. It was magical. Ivory roses, chandeliers like stars, violins playing softly. The venue was filled with celebrities, governors, and socialites. But all Darius could see was her, walking down the aisle in a fitted lace gown, her eyes locked on his, a quiet storm in her heart. Zena looked like a dream, but her smile trembled as she walked. Her steps, though graceful, carried 1,000-pound secret with each stride. They exchanged vows. Darius wiped her tears. And just like that, it was official. Mr. and Mrs. Nwachukwu. The reception was laughter and champagne. First dances, cake cutting, kisses that made the crowd scream. Zena tried to enjoy the moment. She danced. She posed. She laughed. But deep inside, her soul was sinking. Because the night was coming. The night where truth and body would collide. They arrived at the honeymoon suite past midnight. A presidential penthouse filled with scented candles, petals on the bed, and soft jazz playing in the background. Darius held her close, his voice husky with emotion. Tonight, you're mine. Finally. Zena smiled weakly. Yes. He kissed her gently at first, then deeper. Her dress fell to the floor. His shirt came off. He carried her to the bed like something priceless. Then slowly, he climbed on top of her, touching her like a man who had waited a lifetime. But as his fingers slid lower, exploring, he paused. Zena flinched. Her heart jumped. Darius looked at her face. His hand was still. She was already soaking wet. Too wet. He studied her expression. Something wasn't adding up. Zena, he whispered, his voice changing slightly. You're really comfortable. She looked away. I'm just excited. But his eyes didn't move. His touch slowed. His breath grew heavier. Less from desire, more from suspicion. Then his voice broke the silence again. You're really sure you've never done this before? Zena's lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes welled up. Zena, he said, now completely still. Tell me the truth. She turned her face toward the ceiling. Tears rolled sideways.
I'm sorry.
Darius froze. He got off her slowly, sat at the edge of the bed, silent, breathing heavily. She sat up, wrapping the sheets around herself, trembling. I didn't plan it like that. I thought you wouldn't want me if you knew. Then I fell in love with you, and I didn't know how to fix it. Still, he said nothing. I stopped everything. I stopped seeing him. I gave you my heart, but I was scared you'd hate me. I tried to tell you so many times. Darius's fists clenched at his side. You mean there was someone else? Her breath caught. At the beginning, yes, Deo. He told me to date you, to collect from you. But I stopped. I swear. I cut him off. I changed. I chose you. The silence in the room was loud, heavy, unforgiving. Darius stood slowly, his jaw clenched, his eyes glossy. He walked to the window, said nothing, and Zena, wrapped in the white hotel sheets, curled up in a ball on the bed, crying into her hands, unsure if her new husband would ever look at her the same again. The room was silent except for Zena's sobs. Darius stood by the window, fists clenched, eyes locked on the city lights below, his chest heaving with betrayal. She had done the one thing he begged her not to do, lie. The woman he had protected, trusted, fought the world for. The woman he married without touching. The woman who made him believe he was the first and only man to have her, had just broken him. He turned sharply. You made me wait, he said, his voice cold. You made me believe you were pure. You said no sex until marriage, and I respected that. I respected you. Zena fell to her knees on the bed, wrapping the sheets around her body like armor. Darius, please. You could have told me, he barked, pointing at her. You could have just said something. Do you think I wouldn't love you if you weren't a virgin? She shook her head. I didn't know how. I was scared. No, he said through clenched teeth. You weren't scared. You were calculating. You let me carry the weight of restraint. You made me suffer silently, saying you wanted to keep it holy. Meanwhile, you'd already given yourself to someone else. Zena covered her face. I didn't plan it this way, I swear. I fell in love with you. I tried to tell you, on multiple occasions. But every time I looked into your eyes, I was scared of losing you. You should have been scared of losing my respect, he shot back. Because that's what you just shattered. She crawled toward him on her knees. Please, Darius. I'm not that girl anymore. I swear to you, Deo was my past. I left him. I gave you all of me, my heart, my soul. I only lied about one thing because I was ashamed of my past. But you made me look like a fool, he muttered, stepping away from her. You made me believe I was different from other men, that I wasn't just another rich guy trying to get in your pants. You are different, she cried. You're everything. That's why I was scared. That's why I couldn't tell you. I was afraid it would end everything. He looked at her, his eyes cold now. And it might have. He walked to the door, grabbing his coat. She jumped off the bed, panic in her steps. Darius, please don't go. Please, I need you to hear me. But he didn't turn around. He just said, I need to breathe. I need space. Don't follow me. And with that, he walked out. Zena stood frozen in the middle of the suite, the silence left behind suffocating her. Her knees buckled and she fell, sobbing uncontrollably. The ring on her finger now felt like fire. The bed felt like a tomb. And the honeymoon suite, a place of celebration, had become her prison. She didn't eat that night, or the next morning. She sat by the window with her wedding dress still on the chair beside her. The world outside moved, but hers had stopped. She tried calling Darius. Once, twice, 10 times. No answer. She sent him voice notes, crying, begging, explaining. Still nothing. The media posted about their fairy tale wedding, but inside Zena's heart was nothing but regret and sorrow, because she knew she hadn't just lost a man. She had lost the only man who truly saw her, and she let fear take his trust away. The streets of Lagos blurred past as Darius's driver cruised through Lekki's silent midnight roads. Darius sat in the back seat, eyes blank, head resting against the cool glass of the window. But inside, his mind was anything but quiet. Zena's trembling voice, her eyes soaked in tears, her shaking hands reaching for him. Her confession, I didn't plan it this way. I fell in love with you. He clenched his jaw. He wanted to hate her. He wanted to curse her for turning their first night into a battlefield of lies. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her laughter, her silly morning dance in the kitchen, the way she made his world feel warm, human, real. The girl who hawked drinks in the sun had become his whole world. And now she'd broken it. That night, Darius didn't go to his home or any of his luxury properties. He checked into a discreet boutique hotel on the island, somewhere quiet, where no one would recognize him. He left his phone on Do Not Disturb, ignoring every notification, every message from friends, staff, and her. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep never came. Zena, on the other hand, couldn't stop crying. Her face was swollen, her voice hoarse from begging into a silent phone. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The honeymoon suite was still untouched, petals drying on the bed, cold food left on silver trays. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding her phone like it was a lifeline. She scrolled to Darius's mother's number. For hours she stared at it. Then finally, she pressed call. Hello? Came the warm, familiar voice of Mama Nwachukwu. Mummy, it's me, Zena, she whispered, voice shaky. An, my daughter. I've been calling you since the wedding day. You didn't even pick. How are you and my son? Zena broke down again. Mummy, I made a terrible mistake. What happened? Zena told her everything. From the first lie to Deo to the fake virginity. and how she tried to fix it but ran out of time and courage. She poured it all out, not hiding or holding back. Her voice cracked under the weight of shame and regret. At the end of the call, there was silence on the other end. Zena swallowed hard. "Mummy, I'm so sorry. I love your son. I swear I've changed. I don't want to lose him. Please help me beg him. Please. My daughter. Do you know why I liked you from the first day?" Zena sniffled. "Why?" "Because since Darius met you, he became alive again. Before you, he was always guarded, cold, afraid. But with you, he laughed more. He forgave more. He dreamed again. You brought light into my son's life." Zena covered her mouth, more tears pouring. "Even now," the woman continued, "he is hurting. Not just because of what you did, but because he loves you deeply. And when Darius loves, he loves with his whole heart. Will he ever forgive me?" Zena asked in a broken voice. "That's his decision to make. But I will call him, and I will tell him your truth." Later that day, Mama Nwachukwu called her son. "Darius," she said softly. "I spoke with Zena." Silence. "She told me everything. And I won't excuse the lie, but I want you to remember something. People lie because they're afraid. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of loss. Afraid they're not enough. But what matters is why they lied, and whether they're willing to make it right." Darius leaned back on the hotel bed, the ache in his chest still heavy. "I don't know what to do, Mum." "Do what you need to do, my son. Take space. Heal. But don't let your pride destroy something your heart still wants." "I need space, Mum," he said finally, his voice tight. "Please, just space." "Okay," she replied gently. "But know this, Zena is here. She's broken. But she's waiting." He ended the call, and sat in the silence. Still unsure, still angry, but also still in love. The mansion was quiet. It had been that way for weeks. Zena had stopped checking the windows every hour. She had stopped staring at the gate, hoping the next car that pulled up would be him. She'd even stopped crying, but not because the pain had gone. It was because she was empty. There were no more tears to cry. She searched for him in the places they used to go together, his favorite cafe in Ikoyi, the beach where they used to watch the sunrise, even the car wash where he'd play with the kids. But he was nowhere. Felt like he had vanished, taking her heart with him. Every night, she slept in one of his hoodies. Every morning, she made breakfast for two, then threw away the untouched second plate. She replayed his last words in her mind over and over. "You should have told me. That's all I asked." She would have given anything to take that night back. 3 weeks later, Zena was in the garden, trimming the roses he had planted. She had started doing it every evening. It was the only connection to him that hadn't disappeared. She wore his gray sweatshirt, her hair tied up messily, face bare and tired. She didn't hear the front door open. She didn't hear the soft footsteps inside the house. She didn't hear the voice that said her name the first time. Quiet, unsure. But she heard it the second time. "Zena." Her hand froze midair. The garden scissors dropped to the ground. She turned slowly, and there he was, Darius, standing at the patio door. Hair grown longer, beard rougher, but his eyes, still the same. She didn't move. Then, like something broke inside her, she ran. She dropped everything and ran to him, bare feet on wet grass, tears already building. She threw her arms around him the second she reached him, holding onto him like he might disappear again. "I'm so sorry," she whispered against his chest. "I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for everything. I missed you every day, every second. I didn't care about money or status anymore. I just wanted you to come home." Darius held her tightly. He didn't say a word at first. Then he pulled her back, looking into her eyes. "I was never looking for a virgin," he said quietly. "I wasn't looking for a woman with a clean past." Zena's eyes widened, tears clinging to her lashes. "I just wanted honesty. I wanted someone who would be real with me, someone who could drop the act and say, 'This is who I am, and I hope you'll still love me.'" She nodded, barely breathing. "I love you, Zena, regardless. Nothing you said or did will make me unlove you. But please, never lie to me again. I won't, she said, choking on emotion. Never again. He smiled, brushing his thumb across her cheek. Good, because I've missed you, and I want you tonight. Xena froze slightly, her heart racing. I want all of you, he continued, voice softer now. Not just your body, but your truth, your fears, your dreams. Everything. She stared up at him, then slowly leaned into his chest. Her heart beat against his in perfect rhythm. I'm yours, she whispered. Everything I am, everything I've been, everything I hope to be. Their first night. That night, something had shifted between them. The air in the room was thick with longing and forgiveness. Not a word was spoken because words had done enough. Xena stood before the mirror in the dimly lit bedroom, her fingers trembling slightly as she sprayed the perfume he loved. The soft, floral scent floated through the air, his favorite, and she could already imagine how he would pause and close his eyes just to inhale her. Her body was in rhythm with nature, her most fertile days, and she could feel it. The tension in her thighs, the heat that pulsed through her. She didn't plan it this way, but Darius had come home at the perfect time. In the bathroom, Darius stood shirtless before the mirror, carefully shaving his face. He didn't rush. He hadn't touched her in months. Ever, actually. And tonight, everything had to be right. The water ran, the blade slid across his skin, and his heart beat harder with every minute. He walked into the bedroom wearing only silk pajama pants. The lights were low, shadows dancing on the walls. Xena stood by the window in a thin robe, her hair cascading down her back. Their eyes met. No words, just need, unspoken, burning. Darius moved first, slowly, deliberately. His hand reached for her waist. She responded with a sharp breath, her chest rising to meet his. His fingers slipped beneath the robe, tracing her skin. Xena leaned forward, pressing her lips against his. Gently at first, like she was still asking for permission. But when Darius responded, the kiss deepened into a silent promise. We made it. When his hands reached between her thighs, she gasped, but not out of surprise. She was ready, already drenched. Darius paused, pulling back just to look at her. She was trembling, not from fear, but from the intensity of wanting him. Her body told him everything he needed to know, and without another word, he sank to his knees. His touch was gentle, reverent, and when he tasted her, she arched with a cry she tried to muffle, her hand flying to her mouth. He held her thighs firmly, not letting her escape the waves crashing inside her. When he finally rose, his mouth warm against her skin, they moved to the bed. His bed. The one that had been cold for weeks. She pulled his pajama pants down, and for a moment she hesitated. He was big, much bigger than anyone she had ever been with. Their eyes met again. Darius saw the worry in hers. Are you okay? He whispered. Xena nodded, then whispered. I want all of you, and he gave it to her. The first time was slow, deep, almost unbearable from how long they had waited. She held onto his shoulders, her legs wrapped tightly around him, gasping into his neck. The second time was rougher, faster, her back pressed against the pillows, her fingers digging into the sheets. The third, the fourth, the fifth. By then, they weren't even counting. They were chasing each other's fire, pouring months of longing and forgiveness into every movement. By the seventh round, the sun was rising. Xena lay on her stomach, her body limp from exhaustion, a lazy smile on her lips. Darius was beside her, one arm draped across her waist, his breath slow and deep. Neither spoke, because nothing needed to be said. They were one now, in body, in soul, in truth, forever after. The room smelled of sweat, skin, and lavender from the candles they'd never blown out. Xena woke up first, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache, but her smile stretched wide across her face. Darius was still asleep, one arm over her waist, his face calm, at peace. She stared at him for a long time. This man who gave her the world, not because she asked for it, but because he chose to. This man, who forgave her and loved her harder after the truth came out. Her hand drifted down his chest, gently tracing the lines of his body. Darius stirred. "Again?" he murmured, eyes still closed. She giggled. "You started this fire. Now deal with it." He opened one eye, grinned, and pulled her beneath him. They didn't leave the bed that morning, or that afternoon. The house cleaner knocked around noon to deliver food. The moment she stepped in, Zena's moans echoed from upstairs again. The poor girl sighed, shook her head, and walked away. This was the third time. Every time they paused to breathe, Zena curled into him, refusing to let go. "I don't care about anything else," she whispered. "If I could live in this bed with you forever, I would." Darius kissed her forehead. "Who says we can't?" For months later, they traveled to the mainland to visit Darius's mother, who had been asking for months. Zena was nervous at first, but Mama Nwachukwu welcomed her with open arms, hugging her tight. "You're glowing," Mama said, eyes sparkling. Zena smiled. "It's him. And I came to say thank you, Mama." "For what, my child?" "For not giving up on me. For loving me even after the truth came out. For helping him find his way back." The older woman took her hands and said, "You're my daughter now. Nothing will change that." They stayed for lunch. Darius laughed more that day than he had in a long time, and Zena sat beside him like they had always belonged together. 9 months after that first night, the hospital waiting room was quiet at 2:47 a.m., but Darius was pacing like the world was ending. Sweat beaded his forehead, even though the AC was freezing. Then the nurse stepped out with a soft smile. "Congratulations, sir. It's a girl." Darius froze. His knees nearly gave out. "A girl. She's beautiful and strong, like her mother." Tears filled his eyes as he was led into the delivery room. Zena lay on the bed, exhausted but radiant, holding the smallest little bundle in pink. When Darius saw them, his entire world in one frame, he broke down. He knelt beside the bed and kissed Zena's hand, then the baby's forehead. "What should we name her?" Zena asked, eyes glassy. He looked at the child. "Zariah." "Why?" "Because she's light. A blooming flower after the storm." 3 years later, Darius and Zena's mansion was full of laughter. Toys scattered across the living room, and Zariah running around with her curly hair flying. They were no longer just a billionaire and a hawker. They were a family. Zena never went back to the streets. She didn't have to. She built a foundation that helped empower girls like her. Street vendors, single mothers, forgotten daughters. And Darius? He never stopped loving her, never stopped wanting her. And every night, he still pulled her close and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." To be continued. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.